Hi guys, this is Young Neil from Advanced Property Strategies, and in today's episode on Your Next Property Deal, we're going to be talking to Brennan Brooks from Affordable Housing Company. He's built hundreds and hundreds of buildings over the years, and he's currently specialising in these rooming accommodation 5-bed, 5-bath properties, which allow you to get in excess of 10% yield on the rental return there. So really, really exciting. He's going to be talking about why he specialises in this field and what tenants are looking for to maximise their longevity and get the most rent from your property. So listen up and enjoy the show. Hi guys, this is Young Neil from Advanced Property Strategies, and welcome to today's interview. We've got Brennan Brooks from AHC, Affordable Housing Company, who've done hundreds and hundreds of this rooming accommodation properties and buildings. So Brennan is not only a builder, he is a serious property developer. He's done townhouses as well as land subdivisions over his time. So welcome, Brennan. How you going, mate?
Yeah, great to be with you.
Yeah, very good. So it's funny, when Brennan and I actually met, it was around about 2008-ish, around about GFC, and I was trying to get rid of a handful of blocks that I had bought off the plan and on sold, and a few of them had crashed, and I had to resell them. Otherwise, I was going to have to buy them. So him and Jeff at the time, Jeff Bailey, God bless his soul, we were having conversations about those blocks, and I remember seeing him a few years later, and he was telling me that he was surprised I was still around. So we're all still around, pumping strong and doing deals, which is good, making money. And Brennan, do you want to just share with us your journey as a builder and a developer to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I guess I've been building in the industry since the mid-90s. And we've always looked for sort of that bit extra, something a bit special. So we've focused a lot on high return properties. Over the years, we've done granny flats and modular housing, relocatable housing, boarding housing, townhouses. So yeah, we really look for stuff that's like investor friendly, bringing the big returns, and that's what we really target. And we try to specialize in it and get very good at it.
And is there any particular reason you do that? I can see why, and I think it's pretty cool, but why do you do that?
I think we just love seeing people play with real estate. You know, it's like playing Monopoly, but getting great returns and seeing people that own our houses make money and have a great investment really motivates us to do a good job.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If the investors are getting a better return, let's say next door, they might be getting 6%. And here with you, they might be getting 9-10%. Then they're more likely to come back and do deals again, isn't it? One, it's easier for them to fund. Two, it's easier for them to brag to their mates and make it worthwhile. So I remember early in the day when I think I first met you early in the day when you were building low sets. Michelle Rogers was saying you could do a low set 4-bedroom house, 180 square meters for 12 weeks flat. Was that the case?
Yeah. So we back in those days, we really pumped them out.
Yeah.
Just we'd split the land, we'd throw 2 4-bedroom houses on it. We'd have it sold like within 3-4 months.
Wow.
And we did hundreds and hundreds of those all around Brisbane.
Yeah.
It's funny to see those houses now. We were selling them 500 house and land at the time. Now a lot of them are like 900 house and land.
Yeah. No, that's they were in good areas too. Wynnum, Manly West. The ones that I can recall anyway. I'm sure you've done all over the place, Rockley, Acacia Ridge now. So so these days you do a lot of 1Bs or rooming accommodation as they call it. Is that the case?
Yeah, so what we found over the different decades, the market swings and changes. And so we went pre-2008, there was a lot of owner-occupier, easy subdivisions. And then after 2008, the market changed and we started focusing on investors. And then we did a lot of duplex granny flats for quite a long time.
Yes.
Till the state government in their infinite wisdom decided they didn't want those anymore.
Yeah.
But they did want boarding houses, and we thought, gee, this is great.
Yep.
We keep seeing opportunity everywhere. There's just not enough housing being built in Australia.
Yeah.
And so we just go out and target the very best of the best. So at the moment, it's 1B boarding houses in the Brisbane City area or the Southeast Queensland area.
Yeah, that's right. And for those of you who are new to this podcast or new to property generally, you are generally limited to around about 4, if not 5 tenants per property. In Brisbane City Council, it's 5. In the Gold Coast, it's 4. A few other places you can do 5. In, let's say, Melbourne, you can do 9. In Western Australia, you can do 6 or 8, depending on the locality. So it does depend on the council, depend on the zoning that they've got as well. Because, in some zonings, let's say in Acacia Ridge, in low to medium residential, you could possibly, on a 900 square metre block, potentially apply for 8 or 6 or 12, depending on the property, with car parks and 2 stories and things like that. So, what percentage, would you say there, Brennan, of your builds at the moment would be 1Bs, mini boarding houses, multi-income dwellings? Would you say 80%, 90%, 100%?
Probably like 98%.
98%.
It's all anyone wants. Yeah.
And look, you're becoming a pace setter in that. I know you and I complain about people. I'm not going to say the French word there, but copying and pasting your plans there. How do you feel about people using your plans in the marketplace? Is it flattering, or is it an insult to your ego?
It was a bit of a shock at first to see people copy it exactly, copy the color scheme, the whole lot. And then you start to think, gee, we must be on the money here.
Yeah.
But over time, we do all our own plans in-house. So we constantly improve and try to go to the next thing. So it's interesting to see. I think one thing we find is the number of people actually out there working is quite small.
Yes.
And so it's actually a very small industry, realistically.
Yeah. It's
And
probably,
so, It doesn't take long for people to copy each other and get ideas off each other. And
but having said that, there is some people still doing it really, really badly. Obviously, we're not going to name names and name and shame on this thing here, but as you know, I've spoken about some builders and some clients, they want to cut costs, so therefore they won't put the sliding doors in or have outdoor living areas, and effectively it cuts the building costs but reduces the rentability and the rent dramatically, right?
Yeah, I think in the early days, we were worried about doing boarding houses because of the negative stereotypes of sort of slum housing commission. And we realized very early on, what we want to go for is the premium top of the market. Those tenants are the really good tenants. They're going to pay every week and they're going to pay top dollar. And so we've avoided doing sort of small renovations or shared bathrooms. So we're trying to go the biggest and the best.
Yes.
And that's really paid dividends to bring in. Like we've got rents as high as $550 in some areas. Whereas if you do a rooming house with a shared bathroom, you're looking at something like $150 a week.
Jeez,
there's a huge range of rentals in the market.
Oh, that's it. And not only will you get a reduced rent if you have a shared bathroom, you have a different caliber of tenant and tenancy problems. I remember when I had my first mini boarding house or boarding house at Stafford, it was 6 tenants paying roughly 100, 110 a week. The majority was on Centrelink. I thought, yep, that's pure passive income. The government's going to pay for me. But then they're fighting over food in the fridge. They're having domestics. They're having fights with each other. People doing drugs because they're at home. They've got nothing better to do. They've got their own, social and mental problems there. So, but having said that, go for it.
Oh, these tenants too are such high caliber. They're out working 40 plus hours a week. They're in high skilled jobs because you've got to earn a minimum of 50 plus thousand to be able to afford the rent in these.
That's
so
right.
They're often never home. They buy takeout and we started finding, they never used the common area or the oven, and they didn't really interact a lot with the other tenants. And it really became the thing to do quite quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, how I remember when you guys were starting off and Jeff was showing me places, and initially that Uber house at Beatty Road there, 3-story monstrosity, 450 square metre under roof there. Mate, it had monster common areas, monster dining rooms, and the ones we're doing today, the minimum square meterage of a kitchen is 16 square meters. So that's all we give them versus, 30 or 50 square meters. So it's interesting how that transition's changed. And you are right, because the rents are between 350 to 420 a week average, multiply that by 3 because it's a 3-to-1 ratio. They're going to be earning 50 grand a year. And I've seen some of them, drive BMWs. I think recently I heard people driving X5s. BMWs as a tenant. My work car is nowhere near the caliber of an X5 BMW. But if my tenants are, that's a good thing, that they look after my place, and because they want fully furnished gear as well. So, what would you say, newbies? So what are the mistakes that newbie investors doing these mini boarding houses or 1Bs or rooming accommodation mistakes that people are making?
I think the most common is people treat it like they're going to live there. So they're trying to buy land where they want to live. They're trying to do furniture or building designs like they're living there. Yes. So we're seeing people buy in the wrong areas, do the wrong kind of furniture, and also do like massive common areas and kitchens and stone bench tops and all that sort of stuff. Yes. So treating it like you're going to live there is a big mistake. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the furniture that you want compared to what the tenant is willing to accept, like the TVs, you can just get them from Kmart or Big W. They don't have to be top of the range, and then the furniture can be from IKEA, Good Guy, Super Amart. So in terms of budget, they're just happy to have brand new stuff and less than 5 years old. From their point of view, it's fully furnished versus unfurnished. So do you find that works better, fully furnished?
Yeah, there definitely is a huge market in the fully furnished. So you only got to bring your clothes, and you can step out of wherever you live right now and move straight into this. They get knives, forks, cutlery, the whole lot, microwave, fridge. But so the second most common mistake is trying to go too cheap on the furniture or the fitting. Yes. There's a market for the cheap stuff, but you can't charge the high rent and put in the cheap stuff. Yeah. But people putting in poor quality mattresses and stuff is just a terrible mistake. Yes. Because these tenants are earning a lot of money, they don't want to live somewhere that's crappy. Yes. They want to have a good mattress to sleep on at night. Yeah. So that's a very common problem we see when people do the furniture. They're like, oh, well, how cheap can I get this stuff? Yeah. And it ends up dragging their rents down. Yeah. So whereas the position and the build might have been quite good, the furniture can actually push up or drag down the rent each week.
Yeah. And not only that, the tenant may stay longer or shorter, depending on the furniture they experience. If you're not having a good night's sleep because the bed's too hard, then you're going to complain or just vote elsewhere. But I do think that having furniture does give you an edge in the marketplace, because if you compare a normal rental, which most rentals are not furnished, versus one of these rentals, you'll be able to get in and get out. And I know it is generally for single people because that's where the niche is and that's what the approvals are for. Any other mistakes that most newbies or beginners make with these mini boarding houses?
I think going to the wrong agent is another common one we see. These require specialized agents that are good at renting by the room, and they really enforce a thing called house rules, which is the rules of living there, who takes out the rubbish, how clean is the common area got to be kept, that sort of stuff. And so the specialist agents we find do a lot better, get a lot higher rents and have a lot fewer problems. Yes. Yeah, and there's slowly becoming more and more of these agents. But there was relatively few of them around originally. Yeah. And so you're talking about tenants staying in long term. So we've got some buildings that are now 8 years old. They still have the original tenants in many of them. Yeah. So some tenants do bounce around every 6 months, and other ones are staying long term.
Go for it.
Oh, what the tenants really love. It's difficult when you think, well, why would you want to share with other people? But a lot of these people don't mind. Originally, about 80% of the tenants are single women, and they didn't mind having other people in the building that sort of kept an eye out for them. Yes. And if their boyfriend got out of hand, there might be someone else in the building to show the guy the door. And so they did like having this little micro community. And we find someone often becomes like the house dad. And he might take the rubbish out and make sure the door's locked at night and that sort of stuff. So they do form little communities as well. Yeah, interesting. And look, my preference, I think my two things that I do like in my mini boarding houses are lots of natural light. So we generally put in a few extra windows or sliding doors, and at least, a 1 meter wide outdoor living area. They may or may not smoke. And even if they don't, they might have a plant or, just some outdoor
living area, I think is very, very healthy. Get some sunshine, whether it's hot or cold. They can hang out some clothes in the sun there. I like to give them their own clothesline. I know it might not be ideal for some circumstances, but that little bit of extra independence, so people can't see your undies hanging up, even if you can get your own washing machine for that independence, right? So
we've spent a lot of time researching the tenants and interviewing them, just finding out what they do and don't like. But most rentals that you go to are quite poor quality. So in Brisbane, quite a lot don't have fly screens, surprisingly. So people are getting bitten by bugs at night. A lot of them don't have fans. Majority of them don't have air conditioning. And a lot of them are very just dilapidated and dirty. So you find a lot of the tenants are coming to us because the thing's brand new. It's got security screens. It's got fans and air conditioning. It's just the brand newness. They also get all the other benefits: electricity. They get internet, water. They get a laundry with washing machines. Like just paying. I don't know if you've been to a laundromat lately. It's very expensive. Like you're spending a lot of money to do your laundry. And so all of that is rolled up into the rent here, where they're getting use of a laundry, which value adds to the rent they're getting. That's fascinating, man. I never even thought about that. I just thought, my aim is to make them self-sufficient, technically not self-contained, but self-sufficient. So they've got everything that they need: bathroom, kitchenette, cutlery. So what about finance? I know, especially in the last 12 months or so, with interest rates having gone up 11 times, it's around about, the cash rate's around about the 4%. Hopefully that'll drop in the next year or so. What are some of the challenges that people are experiencing under finance place? I think when we see people go to get finance without getting help from someone, like from a mentor or a group, they often fail to get it. The failure rate's quite high where they haven't got help from someone. They really need to make sure they go to the right broker and say the right, right answers to the right questions. And the right design as well. I think understanding what the bank wants and what doesn't want, and ensure the design is appropriate for the finance they're applying for. Also, if you're going to go commercial, it's critical to buy the property in a company name, because you can't get a commercial loan if you're bought in a private name. So we get quite a lot of people are bought in the wrong name. Look, I think that's a good point. It's not financial advice because we're not financial planners and we don't have licenses, but that's a tip. Definitely talk to your finance broker. If you are going to do one of these, what is the right entity? Put it in. Because if you're going to be getting 80, 90, 100 grand a year in passive income or gross rental return, and you eventually pay it off, doing 3 or 4 of these, you're going to have potentially a tax problem, right? Especially if you're already earning 100 to 200 grand in your job. So, but what about, oversupply these buildings? Obviously you're doing what, 50, 100 of these every 6, 12, 18 months. Do you think there's going to be an oversupply of these buildings? We did originally when we first started building in Rocklea, for instance. And then we had people copy us, and they even copied the same street. So we ended up with a street with 12 in the one street. And we thought, good Lord, the rent's going to suffer. And weirdly, the rent went up, and it just kept going up. And what we found is the population in Australia is going to grow, I think, by 10 million in the next 25 years. And the fastest growing type of household is a single person household. So the things we've got sort of say that the market's growing faster. Just the growth in the market is higher than the number of buildings we're producing. Let alone the demand that's already out there. It's pretty crazy. We also do demolitions. We're doing up to 100 demolitions a year. We're demolishing all 4-bed family homes on big blocks. So just our company is knocking out another 100 rentals a year from the market. Yes. It's there's just nowhere near enough housing being built in Australia. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that part of progress is these houses which are 50, 70 years old, you're knocking them down so that people can either develop, put more houses on them, subdivide it, or put these mini boarding houses on it. So it's potentially, if it's a 1-to-1 ratio where you're knocking down one house and building one house,
getting rid of one tenant spot and adding another 5 potentially. It's a very, very lucrative thing. But without getting into too much politics, you and I bandied around and bantered about this Queensland Housing Summit and how no positive changes have been made. If you were good old Premier, mate, what would you do? How would you solve this housing crisis? Because you're one of the pivotal instruments in this game.
We're thinking at the moment, even if they fixed all the policy, provided free money, the problem's got too large for them to fix at this point. We don't see many ways out. But obviously, things that would help is making DAs go faster, reducing car parking and landscape. But they're just not making. We have people come in and say, well, we're worried the government might change the policy next week and this will become less popular.
Yes.
There's literally nothing they can do at this point to fix this. And they're making no signs of any real gains. So a couple of interesting things they've done lately. They're reversing the stamp duty for foreign investors. Back a while ago, they were worried that too many foreign investors were buying, and so they were charging them double stamp duty.
Yes.
They've recently got rid of that because they realised that foreign investors were buying the rental properties.
Yes, that's right.
And then they tried to bring in stamp duty for people that were out of state, and they got rid of that. And that it really smacks of people that just don't really know what they're doing.
It is embarrassing, and I think one of their fundamental ways of operationally is that they think, to solve a problem, we just throw more money at it. I think it's just changing the rules. Like, I think obviously in power, that's what you have the power to change the rules, whether it's stamp duty, whether it's relaxations, whether it's discounts, to incentivize people, because investors, if you want tenants, you need investors, and the money's not going to come from the sky. You got to have investors, whether it's from overseas or interstate, and not necessarily make money easier to get. It's just less constraining for the investor. Like I know I saw in Victoria, they were bumping up some of the land tax on the 380,000 investors who previously weren't paying land tax. Well, I think that's a good thing for Queensland because it makes it more attractive for us in terms of land supplies. But I know they're paying off the COVID debt, but
they're dropping the land tax threshold to $50,000 in Victoria, which means everyone will pay land tax now.
Yeah,
and then they were saying that they don't want landlords to pass it to the tenants. So
good luck.
The problem with like state government budgets, 50% of its revenue is from real estate, so either stamp duty, land tax, and that sort of stuff. 50% of the state's revenue. So really, every time they want money, all they can do is attack the housing industry. But
that's it—the housing industry and the mining industry, mate. So
we think there's going to be a lot of growth in house prices in Queensland. The population's growing, and there's really not any supply coming on board.
Yeah,
so that's why we think it's going to go good.
Yeah, I know it for sure because immigration's coming in whether I like it or not. I was talking to Michael Matusik at his seminar, and he was saying 2,000 people a week are coming to Queensland, and with those 2,000 people, there's 1,600 vehicles. So congestion's going to get bigger. People are going to move more to the city because that's where the jobs are. They're the regional places like Ipswich, Caboolture, Gold Coast, Logan, for example. There, if I missed any, I apologise. But the population is pushing whether we like it or not, and land supply is slow. I've got this 25 lotter, and it'll take me 2 years to get it settled, out of the ground, registered, and then we start building houses. So it's a 3 to 5 year process to get someone inside a house. So
yeah.
So anything else, mate, in terms of finishing tips for beginners, or anything else you want to say?
The main idea is that it's not rooming accommodation as such that we're chasing. It's high returns.
Yes.
It's the ability to buy a lot of real estate and hold it and actually make money from it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, that real estate's really way underpriced in southeast Queensland. We've seen people in the last few years, they were buying in areas like Acacia Ridge, and we said, what are you doing? This is a crap suburb. But the prices have doubled and tripled there.
Yeah.
Because especially as people from out of town, from places like Sydney, they go, it's 10 kilometres from the city, and it's so cheap. And you've got buses, trains, jobs. So I think that these out-of-state people have really seen what's coming to Queensland and what's going to be good. Yeah, so our idea is to hold as much property as you can, and that's where we think you're going to, as the prices shoot through the roof, you're going to do really well.
Yeah, look, exactly. And that's where rooming accommodation comes in to magnify the rental return there. If you can get a gross of 10, 12%, you're doing really, really well. I jumped into Acacia Ridge back in 2013 because I saw that during the GFC, pre-GFC, Zilmia, the houses had gone crazy and it had rezoned. It was zoned low to medium residential. And I think in 2008 or so, 2007, pre-GFC, Acacia Ridge got rezoned, but the prices were quite different to Zilmia. So concentrically, it's roughly the same. Demographically, it's quite the same, but the prices were 100, 200 grand cheaper. That's why I jumped into Acacia Ridge between 2013 and 2015. By the time I'd gotten out later in the cycle, people were jumping in and saw what I saw, because it's next to Cooper's Plains, it's next to Sunnybank. Sunnybank median prices at the time were 800 grand, and Chinese come in and pay cash. So it's it's one of those things. That's why,
There's been a lot of talk about Olympics, which they're still nearly 10 years away.
Yeah.
But one thing that we had undervalued is the amount of workers and their families that have got to come here. All the stadiums that are being built, they need thousands of workers that they're bringing in from interstate, along with their families. It's really putting pressure on a strained market. But
it is, put pressure on the labour market for sure.
I mean, it's all about understanding your customer and building what the market wants is what we're doing. And what the market wants is affordable accommodation that they can step in, live in and walk out of.
Oh, look, absolutely. And I think it's one-on-one housing as well. What I mean by that is you might do a 1 into 2 sub, or you might buy an individual block of land. Anybody can do that. Anybody can buy a 1 block of land versus me. I'm buying a 2 hectare plot for 3 million, 5 million, for example. Not everybody can do that. Whereas a single block of land for 350, 550, up to 550, let's say, build a house on it for 450 to 550. It's very much affordable and very chunkable. You can do it one deal at a time with residential finance, with 100, 200 grand cash, and not much experience, and still get it right, as long as you've got the right builder and the right financier, right? So
that's what we love, because to buy an old style boarding house might be 2 or 3 million. And the returns they're getting are no better than what we get. We're also getting, there's been a lot of chatter about NDIS houses, but by the time everyone takes all this money out of your pocket for audit fees and this and that, we're really quite competitive with them as well.
No, that's it.
So it really means, the other thing, I think, you can go out and buy a block that owner occupiers don't want. So it's on a busy road, or it's near a train station, might even back onto the train station. And you can actually do really well off it, because the people living there jump on that train. So you can pick up a good block of land and build something all as just a residential investor.
No, very good.
And you don't need a lot of them. Like one of them is more than plenty.
Oh, that's it. Look, when you start with one mini boarding house, you can generate 80 to 90 grand gross rent. Net rent be 60 to 70 grand before interest there. So, you can do one of those a year. After 5 years, it's 300 grand net rent before interest. So it makes it very, very worthwhile. So, Brennan, how do people get in contact with you? Is it through your website or email, or what's your best preference?
Email is the best way. So it's brennan@ahcbrisbane.com.au. And what we try to do is, if you're looking at a block of land, we'll check it out for you and say, look, this has got this problems, or this is good. We can send out the plans and pricing. And
very good, very good. So look, I endorse Brennan there. I built 2 houses with him, and a lot of my clients have built over a dozen, if not more, houses with him through the course of the year. So definitely rate him. Look, Brennan, we're going to finish there. Thanks for your time, mate, and catch you next time.
Okay, thanks for that.
Hi guys, this is Young Neil from Advanced Property Strategies, and thanks for listening in on this last episode where I interviewed Brennan Brooks from Affordable Housing Company. Hopefully you picked up the tips on the newbie investment mistakes that most people make, and how to overcome the barriers of entry into this game. And I'll explain to you on this particular interview why it's so lucrative to be able to do these deals, where you don't have to be a massive property tycoon to be able to get on to one of these properties. After you're done, you could be getting 80 to 90,000 a year gross rent, if not more, right? So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and look forward to catching up with you on the next one. If you want to join us on Facebook, you can join us on Your Next Property Deal Facebook group. So look that up. Any questions that you have about the speakers that you've heard to date, as well as any contact details that you need, just type it in there, join our group, and we'll catch you next time.